a 2280 form factor, the regular one that we normally use for our systems. And then if you own Hello and welcome everyone. So in the last video we saw installing an SD card into our Jetson Nano developer kit, Orin. And even though it is okay and it is kind of needed to upgrade the firmware and all that, but after you are done with it, you will not want to use an SD card over here. You want to use an SSD. So you have two options to use SSD. One is a 2280 form factor, the regular one that we normally use for our systems. And then if you own a Steam Deck, you must also know about this 2230 form factor. So whoops, so don't drop it. It is a 2 terabyte of 2230 form factor NVMe SSD2, and Jetson Nano actually supports both of them. So it takes 2230 over here and 2280 over here. So what I'm gonna do is I will use 2230 for this video, and we'll install our operating system from scratch in this 2230 NVMe for Jetson Nano. So we won't be using the SD card at all. The system will boot from the SSD and everything else will be done using SSD over here from here on. Now for that you'll need a couple of different things. So let me show you over here. So in a Jetson Nano, you need to sort pin number 9 and pin number 10 in order for you to enter a special mode, which something called, let me show you this over here, which something called SDK Manager will recognize. So first we need to install SDK Manager on our machine, and then you'll realize that SDK Manager is only available on a few different operating systems, one of those not being Windows. So I'll have to restart my system into Ubuntu 2204, which supports the SDK Manager over here, right? So that's one thing that we have to do. Second, once we are booted into our correct operating system in Ubuntu, we'll have to sort two pins over here. And let me on the camera show you where those pins are. So I'm gonna turn my Orin Nano developer kit to this orientation where the SD card is on the camera over here. So if you guys can see, this is where the SD card is normally, right underneath here, and right there there are few pins. So starting from left to right, there are 12 pins in the row over there. It's very hard to visualize. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there are 12 pins in there, and that is under this board. So there are 12 pins over here. Pin number 1 is the first one, and then it goes all the way till pin 12 over here. So what we have to do is you have to start counting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10, and you need to have a wire like this which you can connect pin number 9 and pin number 10 with. So let's do that right now so I can show you. So I'm counting pin number 9 over here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and I'm gonna sort it with pin number 10 over here. So if you have a jumper wire or something, that's all you need. All right, so pin number 9 and pin number 10 are now connected, and now this puts your Jetson Nano in a special bootloader mode. So this is something that you will need for your SDK Manager to recognize your Jetson Nano. All right, so once you have done that, then you'll need a USB Type-C cable over here. So let me show you this. So there is a high quality USB Type-C cable that you will need, and not yet, but eventually you'll be connecting this to the Type-C port, and then you will connect the power into the Jetson Nano. You do not need it to be connected to your screen. You do not need anything else except for a Type-C that is connected to your Ubuntu machine, and of course the power over here, right? So these three things and we'll be golden. So what I'm gonna do is next I will reboot my machine into Ubuntu Linux, and then we will go from there. All right, so now we are booted into Linux, and we need to go to developer.nvidia.com SDK manager and download this particular Debian Ubuntu file for us. And then we'll install this using the normal dpkj -i and the Debian command over here. And once you have installed this, it's a pretty straightforward. I mean, you can look up how to install this online. That's simple. But once you have installed this, then you have to open SDK Manager, of course, and your SDK Manager will make you log in. And you need to have an NVIDIA account, and this is the screen that I want to make sure that you guys are on once you log in and you are ready. So you'll be presented with this screen, and of course you'll see that your target hardware is not detected, right? So product category Jetson is fine. System configuration, host machine is Ubuntu 2204. So host machine is the system that I'm on right now. So it's 2204 Ubuntu. And the target hardware is cannot be detected. And this is where, if you have not sorted the pins like we were talking about earlier, then your target hardware will never be detected. So for your target hardware to be detected, all you need to do is sort the pin 9 and 10 like what we talked about earlier. And now you have to connect the USB Type-C into your board over here, just like that, and then you'll have to put the power in over here. And as soon as you put the power in, you will see your target hardware is detected. Right, perfect. So now your target hardware is detected, and it is saying 8 GB developer kit or the regular Nano. So ours is this 8 GB developer kit version, and we need to select this, and we need to do an OK over here, right? And you will see that now the target hardware, it says that it is connected for us, which is awesome. So this is something that you will need to do, and just keep this pins sorted till you have installed and you are up and running with your Ubuntu system, right? So these two pins being sorted are not going to damage your machine, but you need to keep this sorted for this whole operation while you are actually installing the Linux or the Jetpack on the SSD. All right, so just that's one thing. I think somewhere in the documentation it says that you can take these two pins out after your board has detected that it is in the bootloader mode, but do not do that. I've noticed if you take these pins out after the board has been detected, it does not work. So do not take these two sorted pins out, this wire out, just leave it in till your whole process is done. All right, so let's go to the next step now. So before I proceed, I just want to make sure that you guys had already seen this part, that my NVMe 2230 is already in. So even before plugging it in, plugging the USB-C in and all that, while I was switching over from Windows to Ubuntu, I had already just installed the NVMe 2230 over here. So I'm not going to be using this 2280, even though I could, but this 2280 is 500 gigs and the 2230 that I have is 2 terabytes, which is the reason why I want to use this particular one and not the other one. All right, so I'm going to put this back over here, and this is, you know, in a way going to work like a headless machine right now, so we don't have to worry about it. Now the Jetpack that we'll be using is 6.1 because our firmware is already at 36.4, and if you do not understand what that means, then please watch the previous video where we went through the very painful process of upgrading the firmware from version 3 to version 36.4, and that was a painful process. But please do watch that video, and only once you are at the version 36.4, then you can proceed with whatever I'm going to show you over here now. All right, so your board is detected, you have picked up Jetpack 6.1 over here, and all you need to do is to click on continue to go to the next step. And this is where it is communicating with, internet, and it is showing that what all things you want to install on your host machine being this Ubuntu server, the desktop that I am on right now, and the target component being the Jetson that we have over here, right? So what we want is Jetson Linux image, and we want to flash the Jetson Linux image also, right? So this is the operation. So about 9,000 megabytes, so 9 gigabytes of Jetson image will be flashed on the Jetson whose firmware is 36.4, right? So this is the part that I want to make sure that you guys understand, and this is the part that is going to install it on your SSD, right? So this is the part that installs the image on the SSD. So make sure you have the flash Jetson Linux image part checked. And for other things, I mean, yes, you can have some other components checked too, and that's all on you. Like if you want all the Jetson SDK components, just keep everything checked, except for this last one. I think this says coming soon, and there's nothing in there. There's 0 megabyte of stuff in there. But if you want, you can have everything checked. It'll just take longer to install, but nothing hurts to keep everything checked over here. All right, and then just choose I accept the license terms and conditions. And I have actually already gone in and downloaded everything. So for the very first time, I chose download now, install later, and it downloaded everything so that it is ready for this video for us, right? But if you are doing it for the first time, it's just gonna take a little while to download all these different images first, which it puts into this particular folder, and then it'll just write it to your SSD, right? So just choose continue to step 3 now, and in your case it will start the download process, and then it will start the writing process after that. But in my case it has already downloaded, so let's do continue to step 3 and see what happens. So it's asking for my machine's password over here. So this is the Linux machine's host machine's password. So I'm gonna enter my sudo password over here, click OK, and this is where it is asking how do you want your Jetson Nano to be configured. So you can choose pre-configure, where it will use or it will go through the Ubuntu's wizard process and it will set everything for you, which is what I really like. So I can just choose my username and any password that I like, right? So I choose the username and password, and for the storage device, what I can do is I can choose NVMe device over here, and this is where the magic happens. So if you choose your SD card, which if it's not there, of course nothing will happen, it will probably error out, but you have to choose your NVMe over here. And over here your board is already chosen, so nothing else you can do. But you have your board chosen, you choose the pre-OEM configuration. There is actually a custom runtime option too. If you choose the runtime option, then you do not get to specify your username and password, and then you cannot use your machine as a headless machine in a way. So like you will have to then connect the display port to a monitor, and then it will flash and it will make you go through that initial Ubuntu setup process. Or you can just choose this pre-config, and in this pre-config you can provide your username and password, and it automatically goes through that initial Ubuntu setup for you. So let's choose the pre-config, it makes things easier, and then let's click on flash over here. So after it goes through this initial validation process. If you see in the background, actually there are certain things that are happening. Okay, so that validation process went away, and you will see that it is removing and adding, and this is something that you will continue to see over and over again. But the most important part over here is this one. See the flashing 1%. This is where it takes a lot of time. So for me, I think I've done this process once, and it took about close to 25 minutes over here for me, and to flash onto your SSD. But because it is going through this USB-C over here, for whatever reason, 10 gigs of flashing takes about that much amount of time over here for us. So let's wait for this flash to get done, and then after the flashing part is done, it will move on to the remainder of the process, right, to install the components. But it first installs the base vanilla image, it flashes it to your SSD, and then it goes on installing any other custom components that you have chosen afterwards. So let's say you are in a hurry, you don't want to install the custom components right away. That's fine too. You can just install the Linux image first, and you can come back and open the SDK manager later on, and you can install all these custom components afterwards to these runtime components and the SDK components. So I'm just gonna wait for a little bit and have this process go through, and then we'll come back and we'll see how the flashing part is working out over here for us. But the install already happened over here. So, and your system is looking to install the software parts of it now, right? So if you skip this right now, it's still okay. You'll be able to log into your Jetson. You'll be able to SSH into your Jetson, and that will be fine. But if you choose to, you can go ahead and install, click on install at this point of time, and all the remaining software that you had, right? So everything else that you had over here, all those things will be installed for you. There are two ways to install these SDK components, right? Way number one is the USB method. So if you choose the USB method, then this IP address is automatically selected for you. And if you hover over this information sign, so on USB, it says for USB Ethernet, just use the default 192.168.55.1. But if you want to use your Ethernet cable, you can use that, but use the correct target IP address over here. So I think we can choose the USB option because we are already plugged into USB, and there should be a faster option is what I'm hoping to. And let's not set any proxy. Our username and password are pre-filled in because we had already provided that, right, for our install process. And let's just click on install over here, and let's see if it connects to the remote machine, and well, the remote machine being our Nano over here, and if it continues with the install. So it is verifying whether the system is ready to install, which means it is booting up the machine right now. And if you connect your Nano at this point of time with the monitor, you can actually see that your system is indeed up. But this is pretty cool. If you are already up to this step, let's take a look at what has happened. So the Flash Jetson Linux image is done. So it has actually installed 9520 megabytes of data on the SSD. It has flashed the correct Linux image, which is the Jetpack 6.1 onto your SSD. So the SSD install process is already done. Because we chose a ton of different options also, we chose actually everything because we have a 2 terabyte of SSD now. Why not install everything in there? So that is the reason why it is just installed and everything is in there. You know, if I connect my Ethernet cable, so there is a Ethernet cable already available. If I connect that to Jetson, I'd be able to SSH into it and I'd be able to visualize what else is going on in the Jetson 2. So by default, I believe SSH is OpenSSH server is already part of the Jetson image, and let's see if we want to plug in the, let's live on the edge, right? And let's just plug in the cable and let's just find out what happens. I'm gonna plug it in, and we are definitely going to find out if this is going to work for us. So let's see, ping Jetson, and it is available over here, right? So Jetson is available, so that is nice. It is pinging it, and let's do a SSH. Okay. All right, so we are into it. So this is pretty awesome. So while our remainder of the system is getting installed with all these different options, you can actually visualize what is going on in your Jetson with the SSH also. So let's see, do we have edgetop? I don't think this comes with edgetop. So it does come with Tegra stats though. So let's see if we can visualize Tegra stats over here. And the amount of RAM being used is 791. I know Tegra stats isn't the prettiest of the things to see, but it at least gives us some information over here. And let me try to make this smaller so it looks like it's an update. Okay, so not what I want to do. Okay, so we can see that the RAM is 800. Swap is 0, which is good. We do not need any swap over there. CPU is, so these are the sets of CPU stats that we see. So 36, 18, 1, 5, 0, and there are some other statistics that are also shown over here. So GPU is 44, not bad. All right, so this actually proves that our system image is actually working. So it is currently booted in with your Linux image. Your SSD is booted up with the correct image. So what I'm going to do is I just let it install remainder of the software, and I think this install process will be very long process. So I will let it install, and once the whole install process is done, we'll come back. And all right, so it has been a while. I came back and everything is installed perfectly over here. And as you can see, I can exit out of this over here. So this was the SSH machine, and you can see installation completed successfully. Everything is installed now over here. Let's go ahead, finish the installation, exit out of it. And if you take a look at our Jetson, it is nice and happy. And we can also do reboot over here. And it should reboot our Jetson over here, which we'll observe. Yep, so the fan stopped and fan started back up again. And we can do a ping Jetson 2, and it should start pinging it soon over here for us. As soon as it comes back up, we'll start seeing some responses back over here. So we'll see the host unreachable for a little bit, and in a few seconds we should see There we go. There we go. All right. So our system is up and running, and this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted our Jetson to have booted from SSD, which it did just now. All right. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.